July 20. Oh, thank you. At 7:30, I will call to order the July 23rd meeting of the Norwalk Common Council. If you'll all please rise and join me in pledging allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, if you'll please call the roll.
Mr. Burnett,
Present.
Mr. Goldstein,
Here.
Mr. Lopez,
Here.
Ms. Najolski Eichner, Ms. Smith, here, Ms. Ayers,
Present.
Mr. Seed,
Present.
Mr. Wiggins,
Here.
Ms. Young, here, Ms. Edie,
Here.
Ms. Dunn, Mr. Sutton,
Present.
Mr. Frere,
Here.
Ms. Shanahan, here, Ms. Najolski Eichner,
Present.
14, we have a quorum.
14 present, thank you. First item on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting of July 9th, 2024. Do I have a motion? Ms. Shanahan, do we have any corrections, deletions, or omissions?
Mr. Mayor, said a very brief correction, and I apologize. In the very last item of discussion, the sentence said that I suggested we finish the bid process. I suggested we finish the planning process. We did complete the bid process.
Okay. Okay, any other corrections, deletions, omissions? Seeing none, all in favor of the minutes as corrected? Opposed? And abstentions?
One.
Very good. 13 in favor, 1 abstention, Ms. Edie. Next is public participation. James, we have nobody in the audience. Do we have anybody on virtually?
Rich Bonifant.
Thank you.
Mr.
Just on-
Bonifant?
Can you hear me all right?
We can.
Okay. Rich Bonifant, Park Hill Avenue. Sometimes I forget that part. I'd like to speak on item 6A1 under the Corporation Council. And my first comment is general, that it's getting a little pathetic to have all your committee meetings online only, where you haven't seen a constituent at a committee meeting in over 4 years. So by the time items make it to the full council like tonight, your decisions are already made and the votes are committed. So that's my little side editorial. But speaking on that project, on the Wall Street project, the developer agreed years ago to provide 100 parking spaces, and you're letting them off the hook by letting them buy it out at $22,000 per space. Add to that the new zoning regulations don't require any spaces for new projects. You know, they passed that at the last minute when they passed the zoning regs. No spaces are required in the urban zones. So I think that's going to create a huge parking shortage, especially for businesses that want you to just park on the street, buy your stuff and leave. Some people don't want to just park in a garage and walk a couple blocks around the corner when they just want to run into the store and get something. So that's going to kill like in and out businesses. And also on that project, on the POCO project, as we'll refer to, I'm trying to figure out what year you actually be collecting taxes on this building. I don't know if the clock starts when it's going to take 3 years to build this thing, and when they get their CO, is there a timeline that they're in an enterprise zone, so they're not paying taxes for 7 years, 15 years, or whatever deal you've had? So I think it's time to rethink the enterprise zone, because a lot of folks are getting upset with paying their own taxes and other people's too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bonifant. Anybody else, James?
If you wish to address the council this time, please raise your hand electronically. There are no more, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Are we going to, there are no resignations or appointments this evening? Now for my remarks, first of all, it is absolutely my pleasure to welcome our new council person, Ms. Edie. It's your first meeting and you're newly sworn in, which we just saw a few moments ago. You know, it's nice to see somebody step up to serve the community. These gentlemen and ladies on the council have been working for many years in the same capacity, and it can be a trying job and difficult at times. And it's really hard sometimes to find somebody willing to do that, especially because, well, you get a lot of money, you get $50. So Nicole is a lifelong resident, very active in the community. In fact, I've been told that she goes to a lot of the committee meetings, very active, which makes you the perfect person to be appointed to the council. So we're very, very thankful that you've done that. And many residents think highly of you, and you describe you as a thoughtful, patient, and kind person. So thank you and welcome. So if you haven't already filled out your survey, we're encouraging everyone in the community to fill out our West Avenue mural survey. The survey closes this coming Friday. Please, when you get on the website, choose the colors of the animals and fish and the words that you'd like to see featured on the city's new exciting West Avenue wall mural. It'll be situated between our two urban areas, Sono and Norwalk, or West Avenue, Wall Street area. You can find this survey, excuse me, on the city's social media pages. So far, wow, there's a lot of interest. We have over 400 surveys filled out. That's quite remarkable. So people are excited about it. People are getting involved, and we'll make this a project of the people. Now, recognizing the 34th anniversary of Americans with Disability Act, everybody's invited to come to City Hall today, this Friday at 10 a.m. for a proclamation ceremony recognizing the 34th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. It was signed into law July 26, 1990 by President George H.W. Bush, and is a national mandate for eliminating discrimination against people with disabilities by reducing barriers and changing perception to help enhance the quality of life for people who have those disabilities. Following the proclamation ceremony, we'll have some coffee and pastries. If anybody wants to come, they say, feed them and they will come. So we'll try it out. Next, we have we're excited to announce the city's 3rd annual Summer Jazz Concert will start on August 3rd. Every Saturday night throughout August, come enjoy live jazz at 7 p.m. Every Saturday, the concert will be at a different location, including Pasture Beach, Ryan Park, 50 Washington Street. We want to thank our partners, SNEW and the Second Taxing District, for helping us make this happen. Having said that, that's my remarks, and I'll now turn it over to our council president.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you took all the words that I was going to use to describe Ms. Edie. But I have to just concur with what the mayor has said about you. I think you will be a breath of fresh air coming on to this committee, council. And so we welcome you. I hope that I also hear that you attend a lot of meetings. So you will hit the ground right in a lot of instances. But I've also heard that you're thoughtful. And I think that's what the mayor said. And I think we have to have thoughtful, even-keeled folks who have opinions and aren't afraid to share them. And so that is what we are about, I think, on this council. We don't discourage anybody's free thought because that doesn't help the process. But I have to say, we are very thankful that you are here with us and you agreed to step up. And I think it's a natural progression of attending all these meetings. This is the next step of that. And Mayor, you better look out because she might be taking your seat, huh?
Yeah.
So welcome, welcome, and please feel free. I know that you have to reach out to all of us. I think everyone here is very helpful, and it's always willing to answer any questions that come up. So it's not a bother to call folks. at all. And so I think that's what's expected, because how else will you learn and get answers to your questions? And so, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're taking someone's seat, and that's sometimes not a easy thing to do. And I have to say that Ms. McMurray did a yeoman's job in her time here on the council, and we appreciate all of her effort, and we know that you're gonna put in the same. So thank you. Thank you. Next, Mr. Mayor, just want to announce that Mr. Jalen Seed will be the new chair of the Public Safety and General Government Committee. So I have to say this, I've known Jalen since you were 15, I think.
Oh, 10 years, huh?
Yeah, just 10 years, thank you. So I've known you for a very long time, and I just am, I want to say proud because that's like a mom, but I'm just so proud of where you are and what you've done with your life and all that you've done in the city and your commitment to the city at such a young age. I think I saw it back then, and it's just flourished, and you were just another gem in the city. And so we thank you for stepping up, and have to say that Ms. McMurray thought that you would do well in that spot. So thank you. And so now we're on to the consent calendar that will be read by Councilmember Parks. Thank you.
Item 7A under Finance and Claims, number 1, for informational purposes only, report of the Claims Committee dated July 2024. Item 2, for informational purposes only, narrative on tax collections dated July 2024. Item 3, for information purposes only, monthly tax collectors reports dated June 2024. And A4, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Norwalk Housing Authority, NHA, regarding the calculation of the NHA's statutory payments in lieu of taxes pilot for each of the NHA's developments located within the city of Norwalk. B, ordinance. B1, approve revisions to Chapter 66A, mooring and anchoring, Article 1, rules and regulations, Section 66A-3, 66A-8, 66A-9, 66A-12, 66A-20. B2, approve revisions to Chapter 66A, mooring and anchoring, Article 2, permit fees, Sections 66A-26 and 66A-27. B3, approve revisions to Chapter 69, Norwalk Harbor, Article 1, General Regulations, Section 69.2, 69.5, and 69.6. B4, approve revisions to Chapter 69, Norwalk Harbor, Article 3, Norwalk Harbor Management Commission, Section 69.20, 69.21, 69.22, 69.23, 69.24. B5, approve new section to be inserted into Chapter 69, Norwalk Harbor, Article 3, Norwalk Harbor Management Commission, Section 69-25. Item 7C1, under Recreation, Parks, and Cultural Affairs, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement and sign all required paperwork with the U.S. Forestry Service for the Inflation Reduction Act, Norwalk Improvements to Increase Urban Forestry Grant 24 DG 11094-200-058 in the amount of $1 million. C2, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute a 5-year lease extension with the Pastime Social and Athletic Club for the use of a small portion of land along Seaview Avenue. Remaining terms of the agreement to remain unchanged. C3, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to approve the use of Washington Street Park and immediate surrounding grounds by Gordon Fine Arts, LLC, for their Sono Arts Festival to be held on Saturday, August 3rd and Sunday, August 4th, 2024, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Setup time by 6 a.m. Saturday with tear down by Sunday, 7 p.m., approximately 1,000 people. Item 7D1 under Public Safety and General Government. Authorize the purchasing agent, Sharon Connors, to issue a purchase order to Safe Boats International for the purchase of one 23-foot center console police vessel not to exceed $324,036.37, account number noted. D2, authorize the purchasing agent Sharon Connors to issue a purchasing order to Max BMW, the sole source provider of BMW public safety motorcycles in Connecticut, for the purchase of 4 motorcycles not to exceed the amount of $116,865.96, account number noted. D3, authorize the purchasing agent Sharon Connors to issue a purchase order to Sullivan's Northwest Hills for the purchase of 10 2024 Chevy Police Package utility vehicles under State of Connecticut government pricing for a total not to exceed $537,360, account numbers noted, state contract pricing 19 PSX 0161. Item D5, authorize the purchasing agent Sharon Connors to issue purchase order to Fleet Auto Supply LLC for emergency lighting and upfit for 10 police utility vehicles and 2 Chevy fully electric police package vehicles for amount not to exceed $284,000, account number noted. 7E, Community Services, item 1A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for and accept grant funds from Ledge Light Health District in the amount of $50,115 per year for the period beginning July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2029 for public health emergency preparedness. 1B, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments as may be necessary to implement the public health emergency preparedness grant for the period beginning July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2029. E2A, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to enter into an agreement with Flourish and Thrive Labs LLC in an amount not to exceed $15,000 from grant account number noted for HIPAA consultation services. 2B, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all agreements, documents, instruments, or amendments as may be necessary with Flourish and Thrive Labs LLC for HIPAA consultation services. E3, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents or amendments as may be necessary to disperse the non-competitive procurement funding to the Norwalk Partnership to support the development and execution of the Community Youth Mental Health Gap Analysis in the amount of $15,000. Positive Directions, the Center for Prevention and Counseling, is a fiduciary for TNP, account number noted. E4, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents necessary to extend the agreements by which the city subgrants the child daycare contract grant funds it receives from the state of Connecticut, Office of Early Childhood for state fiscal year 2025 with the following child care providers: Odyssey Learning, Inc., Trinity CDC, Inc., Stepping Stones Museum for Children, Inc., Connecticut Institute for Communities, Inc., and Growing Seeds 2 Child Development Center. And that is our consent calendar.
You've heard the consent calendar as read by Councilmember Smith. Opposed, abstentions? So unanimous, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Now that brings us to item 6A1, Corporation Counsel. We have a Assistant Corporation Counsel Darren here. And we also, I noticed that Corporation Counsel Maria Coppola has joined us. So, Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have some comments regarding the item on our agenda, but I noticed that Mr. McClatchy with JHM Group, our developer, is in the audience.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, just in terms of protocol, we should read the motion first before we go into discussion.
Sure, apologize.
Why, yes, why don't you read it?
You want me to read it?
Darlene, you, and you move it forward, if you would. Thank
So,
you.
6A, Corporation Counsel, authorize the mayor, Harry W. Rilling, to execute any and all documents necessary to amend the land disposition and development agreement and related loan recognition agreement concerning the development of 61 Wall Street and 17 Isaac Street, last amended on August 21st, 2020, as necessary for the developer to close on its construction financing. Remove the item.
Ms. Young has moved the item up for discussion. Mr. Callahan.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Just picking up where I left off, Mr. McClatchy is in the audience tonight. We asked him to attend to just give an update to the council. We thought the council would appreciate an update of where he's at regarding the closing on the financing on this project and how close they are to putting the shovel in the ground and commencing construction. So with that, if Mr. McClutchy would like to make a few comments, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Todd McClutchy. I'm with JHM Development, and we've been working on the Wall Street development for a long, long time. And we're finally here to say that we are very, very much at the finish line to get the construction financing in place for this development. We have worked tirelessly with the city, with the state as our partners, and with private lenders to bring this to where it is right now. We expect to be able to close within the next week or two. We are looking to pull a permit and would like to be on site as soon as possible. As soon as we have a permit in hand, we will be on site. We are currently in the process of cleaning up the site at 17 Isaacs as well as 61. So you're going to start to see some activity over there. And we're going to start to see some buildings coming into shape and form as soon as we make it through the last few strokes and hurdles that need to be cleared here. And something that's been a long time in the making, and we're very excited to be working on this project.
I just have one question. A previous speaker said this is going to take 3 years to build. I don't think that's the right number. What is your expected completion date on One Wall Street Place?
Yeah, so the construction will take no longer than 2 years, and then there will be some time for lease up. So maybe the 3-year period that somebody may have referred to might have included some of that lease up as well as stabilization, but the construction won't take that long.
Do we have any comment, discussion or questions from the council?
Mayor,
members?
just for purposes of clarification, if I could ask Mr. McClutchy, with regard to the first building, my understanding is that the date of completion of construction is approximately 16 months. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're about 16 to 18 months for the first building and about 21 months for the second building.
And so just so we're clear, the first building will be completed in approximately 16 months. That will be completion of construction. And second building, 21 months. Mr. McClutchy referred to stabilization, basically a term of art for those in the finance world with regard to stabilizing the property for purposes of vacancy and collection loss. But the actual opening of the property should be, again, in the first building, approximately 16 months to 21 months in the second building.
And we'll obviously proceed with lease up as soon as the building is complete and has a CO or a temporary CO.
Ms. Smith, I know you had your hand raised.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for joining and thanks for your comments. It's been quite some time since I've seen you. My question is the current structure 100% usable?
There are some areas that do need to be demolished and rebuilt. So we are reusing as much as possible. We've had engineers and people out there to assess the current conditions in those areas that do have suffered weather or just not being closed up will be demolished and rebuilt in certain areas.
Thank you.
Further questions? Mrs. Najolski-Eichner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could you just maybe step back a little bit? I think there are definitely some folks who have not been here since 2007. And certainly I think some of our folks in the audience, could you just refresh for all of us, how many units of affordable housing are being built in this project? What are their levels of affordability? What are your expectations for sort of how we're going to see this sort of, bring some life to the Wall Street area?
Sure. So the Wall Street Place consists of two separate properties. One is located at 61 Wall Street and the other one is 17 Isaacs. 61 Wall Street is the current location of the existing podium building that is incomplete at this point. And that will have 105 units, all of which will be affordable at various levels. And then the ground floor will have commercial retail space to make sure that that ground floor streetscape is activated. There's approximately 10,000 square feet of retail space. We did carve out a small piece of the retail space to be used for arts and culture. And we'll be working with the city and the Arts Commission on programming that space for both the residents' use as well as the neighborhood itself. So 105 over at 61, and then another 50 units over at 17 Isaacs, which was the former Garden Cinema Theaters. Those will be affordable units again at various levels. They will all range between 30% of area median income to 80% of area median income. And then most of the parking will also be located at 17 Isaacs in a structured parking garage. There will be some parking at 61, just at the ground level, but fairly nominal in the grand scheme of things.
Thank you.
Further questions? I would like to note that the council did receive a letter for public comments from Lisa Britton. Each council member has received that prior to this meeting, and it will be put in the record.
Ms. Ayers.
Ms. Ayers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I would like to make a comment, not a question for anyone at the podium. As one of the representatives from District A, this part of my district has waited a very long time to have this project move forward. So I would like to thank the developers and Corporation Council and even the mayor's office that allowed this project to get to this point. As I spoke to my colleagues last night, and I referenced when I joined the council 3 years ago, one of my first constituent calls was about what they called the POCO project. And it was going on way before I ever came on the council. But this area, including Wall Street, Isaac Street, and even onto Leonard Street, has been greatly affected by the lack of having anything done to this these two plots of land. And so it is very encouraging. It is a happy time for that neighborhood. I think about the businesses on Isaac and Wall Street who just wanted something to happen so that their businesses would be able to stay. And this is something. This is 10 years might seem a long time, and I know we have some more time to wait before we get a complete structure, but I really just have to say, for those residents and business owners who reached out, who were really being affected by the litigation and everything that went on, I have to acknowledge them in this moment, and also thank the city for doing its due diligence to get this project to move forward. So I wanted to take the time to say that this evening, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ayers. Mr. Seed.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of piggyback off of my colleague, Mrs. Ayers. The city and the state is very invested in Wall Street. Earlier this year, we called it the year of Wall Street because of so much things that's going on in Wall Street and investments with the streets and the infrastructure to really help energize that area. So it's really exciting to see this was kind of the missing link. It's something that's been talked about all of my time in politics about what's going on in District A. People are like wondering what's going on. So I'm really excited to see this have some movement. And really just want to really highlight the urgency of getting this going for the investment from the city and a lot of the great things that are going to be coming down that are going to benefit you as a developer, but also benefit, more importantly, the people and the businesses of that area who for too long Wall Street's been forgotten about. So we're just really excited to see this moving forward in District A, and more specifically the Wall Street area.
Thank you, Mr. Seed. Further comments, questions? Oh,
I'd like to
Ms. Dunn.
be the person to say, I agree with what you're saying. I think it's really important that we have this piece of Wall Street. What's happening in Wall Street right now is very exciting, that the buildings that Mr. Martin's done, we all love for Southern Table. However, I've been at this long enough, and I just feel like, fool me once, fool me twice. I've come to these meetings for the last 10 years, and there's nothing at this point to say that this is different than, I just feel like Groundhog Day. So I'm not on board with changing it to make it easier again. It seems like we keep going back to the table and saying, oh, well, this will be different. We need it to happen. I think that we need to address the amount of money that the taxpayers have invested in this, both at the state level and locally. And I'd like to know about the tax abatements and how long they will be in place. We haven't been getting taxes from, property for the last 10 years because it's been dragging on. And I think the public deserves to hear about what the plans are for that too. So good about what that piece of it looks like, the financial, because the last I heard, it was like $800,000 per unit. That's a lot to actually pass the taxpayers.
Mr. McClutchy, Mr. Callahan.
If I could just interject for one moment, Mario Capola, Corporation Counsel, the tax, with regard to the, tax agreement, nothing has changed. And just to give everybody, I think, take a step back here. The documents that you're being asked to approve, quite frankly, a lot of which I don't think we even need council approval. We've kind of taken a conservative approach to ask for council approval, are really just typical closing documents. This is an extremely complicated transaction with multiple sources of financing, both state, local, and federal. And so a lot of the documents are really just technical in nature. Nothing is changing with regard to the arrangement for the tax agreement. Quite frankly, there's very little to any substantive changes to the deal as a result of these documents. We took the conservative approach of bringing them again forward to the council for approval. So I just want to clarify that nothing has changed with regard to the manner in which this project will be treated from a tax assessments point of view or process.
So when did the tax abatement start? What does that look like? Help us clarify.
I'll let Attorney Callahan summarize that for you, but again, it's the exact same arrangement that's been in place since the last iteration of the LDA that was approved years ago by the council. Nothing has changed in that regard.
Thank you, Attorney Capola. So that is correct. In the 2007 LDA, which has been carried forward vis-a-vis the First and Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is where Mr. McClutchy, his group, JHM, was added as the developer. Effectively, the development covenants for phase one obligations were absorbed by Mr. McClutchy's entity. Other than that, the vast majority, if not by far and away, the vast majority of the obligations under the LDA continue to exist and be binding on the developer. To that end, the tax abatement requirements or phase-in requirements can be found in Article 25, Section 25.4 and 20.5.5 of the agreement. I'm happy to circulate those provisions because they're a little dense as far as a read and probably beyond the scope of what anyone really wants to hear tonight. But in broad brush, again, they were established almost 20 years ago. And for purposes of the residential units, there's a 15-year phase-in for the taxation. And for what's called the other improvements, the non-residential component, it's a 7-year phase-in, progressive step up over that 7 years. So something like, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100% over the course of a 7-year period. I don't have such a working knowledge that I can get into exactly how the mathematics works. It has to do with income calculations and audited financial statements. I'm sure Mr. McClutchy could do that, but again, I think most of our eyes would gloss over if we started getting into that. I think there was a second question.
If I could just further on the tax side, on the tax side, I'll just reiterate, I do a lot of tax work aside from Norwalk. I represent about 1/3 of Fairfield County on tax assessment work. And I also do work throughout the state of Connecticut on tax assessment work. With regard to the abatement, it's fairly consistent with what you'll see statewide on similar projects from a tax assessment standard.
For the past 20 years, we're starting point. So now, what is it? Why are we referencing July 13, 2024? Is that the end of?
Mr. McCletchie, the phase-in commences at the completion of construction, right? So the construction will be completed for 61 Wall Street approximately 16, 17 months from now. And that's when taxation would pick up in a phase-in process.
Right.
And on the 17 Isaac Street property, that would be effectively 21 to 22 months from now.
Correct. Yep.
And so the phase-in for that would begin at that point.
Yep.
On the new construction. So the property's being taxed. It's on the new construction, which is typical for when you have an enterprise zone benefit or any sort of an abatement agreement that I've ever seen over the last 20 years of practice. So it's standard that it's on the new construction. So it's in addition to. So just so we're clear, we're getting the taxes on the property as it stands today. And the additional taxes are with regard to the new construction start commencing as of the date that the new construction is completed.
So in here, the letter that we have says the developer has 36 months to complete the construction of phase 1 improvements commencing at the time of the LDA. So that's the construction point. So at that point, so theoretically you're saying 18 months, but they do have up to 36 months?
Well, the taxes will, the additional taxes that we'll get will kick in as of the date that the work is completed, and the work will be completed prior to 36 months. Again, with building 1 approximately around 60 months and building 2 around 21 months. I could tell you that we've had, I just want to give people a little bit of background. We've had meetings with the developer every month for many years, sometimes more than once a month. We have been, I think it's fair to say, on top of the developer in every way possible about every part of this deal, including the timing. So I just want to give folks that background. I see Mr. McCletchie there sort of smiling. We've certainly been diligent in pursuing this project on behalf of the city.
Sounds like a lot of staff hours over the last 20 years.
It has been. I mean, we've certainly stayed on top of it and done everything pretty much possible to move the project forward as fast as possible.
Proceed.
Just wanted to, like, with the tax abatements, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe with the commercial, with these residential, they actually helped keep the taxes a little bit lower because of the way that they're structured, and the taxes are calculated, because they're considered commercial. But also, just frankly, I mean, Norwalk, like a lot of cities in Connecticut and the country, needs affordable housing. We just got the initial draft from the affordable housing study, and it says kind of what we knew, but people can't afford to live here. So I mean, with these projects, with the tax abatements, I understand that people in Norwalk feel like certain people feel like they don't want to pick up the dime for other people, but these people who need affordable housing are people, it's just everyday Norwalkers who were born and raised here, and they want to live here. Their parents want their kids to stay and live in Norwalk. It's not just the people and the stigma people think about affordable housing. It's everyday Norwalkers from all demographics, all different parts of Norwalk, who go to college and they want to come back and they want to live where they grew up and they want to contribute to the city and keep doing it. I understand the stigma behind the affordable housing tax breaks, but it's needed, and the city needs to actually do more to help affordable housing in the city. So I do understand the burden that it does put, but I think it's well worth it. And I think that we need to invest more and do more for affordable housing. And I'm excited to see these 150, 60 units come to help people in Norwalk, and happy to see them in my district.
Mr. Goldstein, then Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. What Councilmember Seed just said is the exact right response. Enterprise zones are designed to be an investment in the community, but I think that what Councilmember Dunn did sort of explore this issue is absolutely worthwhile, and I'm glad she did it. But the core frustration that a lot of people have had is that this has just taken way too long. It just hasn't. The fact that there was litigation that took years to get to this point is in and of itself a tragedy. However, we are at the point, and I think that this item agenda not just symbolizes this, but actually does it, which is it turns inaction into action. And I think that, speaking for myself, but I hope my colleagues agree with me, that inaction is no longer acceptable. And we hope and encourage that there be construction and action from here on out, because the delay is just not acceptable. What Councilmember said about the need for affordable housing couldn't be more critical. Connecticut has an incredible lack of affordable housing that we need to make up, and that is something that policymakers at the local, state, and federal level are working to do, but we have a lot of work to do. Hopefully this project is going to help us put a dent in the need for affordable housing here in Norwalk, and we commend you for doing that, but you need to actually do it. And so that's what we hope in passing this agenda item, that we put our stamp and say that we want this project to move forward safely, expeditiously, and in a way that's going to enliven and enrich the area from now on. So we hope to be a partner with you in doing that, but we do expect you to do it.
Ms. Smith.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I wanted to add to the discussion about affordable housing, and I want to take a moment to thank Mr. McClutchy for your commitment to two buildings that are dedicated to affordable housing. What was it 30% at the bottom or 40%?
30%, 30 to 80%.
Yeah, 30 through 80% of market value. And I remember our discussions when this project was approved before the pandemic, that, you know, we needed housing for our firefighters, for our teachers, for our police officers, for our public servants. And so I really do want to thank you for that, because, and if I'm not mistaken, and Mario or Darren, you might correct me here, that commitment is part of what made the financing take so long. And so, because you could have built, you know, just like any other development with 10% affordable housing. And I just really appreciate that for the people of Norwalk. And I want to thank our legal department for continuing to fight for that, because we really do need affordable housing.
For purposes of clarification, there, the financing mix, and it was something that was important from the city, from the perspective of the city and the redevelopment agency, was that there be a mix of income levels that also allow for there to be folks with expendable income to provide a boost for the businesses, restaurants, et cetera, in the area. So there was a long and thoughtful discussion about what different income levels made sense. And as Mr. McClutchy explained, the range goes from 30 to 80% of area median income. On the higher side, the 80% is for substantial rents, but it was a thoughtful discussion over a period of time that the city, the agency, and the developer engaged in to try to find that right mix. And by doing the second part of the project, which was the additional 50 units at the suggestion of the city years ago, we were able to come up with a better mix of housing that we think achieves that opportunity for the area to have a revitalization.
Thanks for that clarification.
Mr. Josie Eichner.
I just want to very briefly join my colleagues, Mr. Goldstein and Ms. Smith, on this point. You know, it was a policy choice that was made a couple of decades ago. And in fact, sort of coincidentally, when we're doing the pilot vote tonight in relation to the Norwalk Housing Authority, you can see how long ago that most of the housing authority buildings were built. Because there was a period of time where this nation's housing policy was largely done by having affordable housing be built by the cities through the city's capital bond funds. We switched in the 90s to an approach that was much more about doing it through tax credits. So, the other alternative here would have been to, to build buildings with city capital funding. So I think that when people say, oh, well, we're funding it by the tax credits, yes, but it's not that there was not a prior method by which we also funded it. So we need places for folks to live, as I think Ms. Smith really passionately pointed out. These are people who are core members of our community that will qualify for this housing. And we need to find ways, as Mr. Seed pointed out, to fund those. I think there's a lot of opportunity here to consider this a real model for options going forward. And I join Mr. Goldstein in saying both that I'm incredibly excited and I'm looking forward to seeing it happen. I know that Mr. Seed and Ms. Ayers will be keeping close tabs, and we expect to see reports of construction underway. But I think that this is truly a very viable approach to solving a problem that we are very passionately concerned about here in Norwalk. And it does mean that there is public investment in this project. It is why it's a public-private partnership. And that, I think, is a really important method of moving forward and to give people homes here where they should be able to be and stay. And I'm excited about that.
Ms. Ayers.
Thank you. I want to encourage, I know we have received some correspondence via email, as well as we had a constituent speak in public participation, and my very learned colleague, Ms. Heather, speak about concerns about taxing and the city reaping tax credits and getting the due justice of the slowness of this project, that the city has not been able to get all their taxes. I think it's also important, as we are talking about the moving forward of this project, and this project coming to some level of completion after so many years of having a stalemate, to understand that the value of the people who are going to be leasing these homes is more greater than us seeking a higher tax. It is not a good thing to not be able to be displaced and not be able, even though you work 40 hours a day, not a day, excuse me, 40 hours a week, and still not be able to afford somewhere to live. That is not a good feeling. And I don't think any of my colleagues wish that on anybody. And the city cannot answer every problem, but there are certain things that we can answer, and we definitely can answer. And we started under the former council with the Affordable Housing Committee. We started to look at this and take a deep dive and peel back the onion to see what the possibilities could be. And this is one of many possibilities. Even though we're getting, I think it's 150 and 100 or 160 units, that is nowhere near enough units to address what I have called the housing crisis, the affordable housing crisis in Norwalk. So even though there are things that have had to be negotiated, and I think all in good faith, we have to understand that we are going to have more conversations like this moving forward to really address the need of people being able to be sustainable in this city. Okay, so again, as the representative of District A, we are excited and happy that this is here in our district, that it is giving people the opportunity to stay local, to work local, to be educated local. The mayor likes to say we're the top 10 mayor in the country, best place to live? This is something, the top 10. So this is something, you can't be a top 10 city and not have affordable housing. It just doesn't work that way. This is all a part of what makes Norwalk the gem of the sea. And we have to continue to push the conversation about what affordable housing looks like and the difference in the diversity of what affordable housing could be. So I just wanted to add that I know taxes are important and we need taxes to pay our bills and we need taxes to run the city. But the being able to stay somewhere that you really choose to live and not having to be displaced and moved out of Norwalk is also very important.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
Let me just respond to that a little bit. I don't think, Nicole or anybody, I don't think that, I think back in 2007, we saw the need for affordable housing. We've needed more affordable housing for 20 years. My issue is that we keep throwing more and more money at this project and we still have people that don't have the housing. We're taking money from people and they still have nowhere to move into. We need actual housing for people. And I need to know that this project is actually happening. We've been told in 2007, 2014, for 20 years, we've been saying, oh, the Tyvek Temple is going to be taken care of. Why is this different? How is this going to be different? And it's not so, and I keep referencing the taxes, but the taxes is we're taking money from people that are trying to pay their taxes, and then we're still not giving people places to live. We need that housing. We need it to happen, and we needed it 20 years ago. We needed it 10 years ago. We needed it 5 years ago. We need it now, and not 3 years from now. So my issue is that it's built in as this 3 years, and even then, what's the guarantee? I don't want to have this meeting 3 years from now. Okay, we're going to do another LTA. I don't have that faith. And I don't know what guarantees we have. We need it now.
Further comment or discussion?
If I could just address a concern that Councilwoman Dunn just addressed. The closing is happening. I believe it's scheduled to take place by no later than August 2nd. And then the construction companies have already been mobilizing on site, and construction is going to start approximately during the week of August 5th. We've had the same concerns that Councilwoman Dunn has raised. We've been having monthly or bi-monthly calls with the developer and the bank. And the same, just so you know, the same concerns that you've raised have been raised by the mayor, and he's made it abundantly clear to me, to Attorney Callahan and others involved, that there's no patience for having this project prolong any longer, and we have to do whatever it takes to get it done. So just so you know, the concerns you've raised are the same ones that have been echoed by the mayor over the past 6 months, if not longer. And we had those same concerns. There's guarantees within the documents for protecting the public parties to make sure that the project does go forward as planned. And just to give you an example, I mean, Attorney Callahan, to his credit, has worked a lot of nights in the last few weeks. He worked all weekend. We talked a lot over Saturday and Sunday, trying to get this to move forward on time. So I appreciate your concerns. They're the same ones we've had. And I'm sorry we haven't done a better job maybe of communicating all that or updating the council, but you could be assured that we've been diligently pursuing the project in every way possible, and certainly have had the same concerns that you have as well.
Mr. Burnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councilmember Dunn in that we need housing now. But the reality is these things do take time. They do not happen overnight. We have spent, we've made investments in terms of developing an aggressive affordable housing plan. We did not rush to that plan. We are doing our due diligence to look at the data and come up with a real strategy to make a difference in Norwalk as it relates to affordable housing. I think this project is an opportunity to look at what worked and what did not work as well, and revise that strategy so that going forward, we make it extremely attractive for any developer, any partner to come into Norwalk and have a smooth transition as it relates to building affordable housing. So I see this as an opportunity, first, and an opportunity to move forward in a positive way and provide housing in the Wall Street area. But it's also an opportunity for the city to take a step back and look at what worked, what did not work as well, make the necessary adjustments so that we can attract more developers and partners to come to Norwalk, because we definitely need more housing. The Affordable Housing Plan will clearly outline that in high numbers. So if we don't put the strategy in place, then the plan will have no value whatsoever. So I truly view this as an opportunity to make a difference, in particularly going forward and for the future of Norwalk.
Further comment or discussion? Before I call the vote, I want to thank Mr. McClutchy. You know, nobody knew what was going to happen with the previous developer, with the finances, with Citibank taking a deed in lieu of foreclosure. Those kinds of things don't happen that often, and you're navigating uncharted waters, and you're stepping up and you're putting your money where your mouth is, and you're getting the credits that you need to make affordable housing in Norwalk. And I think it's going to be a project that, once it's all said and done, it's going to revitalize the Wall Street area. As you know, we're investing $27 million in Wall Street. Wall Street is on the rise, has been challenged since 1955 when the flood hit in Wall Street area. And I'm proud, and I think this council is proud, that we are the ones making this move forward, making Wall Street what it could be and what it had been. So again, thank you. So having said that, I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? 13 in favor, 1 opposed. Thank you. Mr. Seed, item 7D4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 7D4, authorize the purchasing agent Sharon Connors to issue a purchase order to Sullivan's Northwest Hills for the purchase of 2 Chevy police package, fully electric police package vehicles. Account number noted, State of Connecticut, contract pricing, contract number noted. I'd like to move that and speak to it, man.
Mr. Seed has moved the item, and you have the floor.
Thank you. This is really just wanted to highlight the great work of the police department to really move forward with the city's initiative to become the greenest city in Connecticut. And they're really looking at ways to utilize the fleet vehicles where they can. These 2 vehicles are going to be utilized for the high schools, Norwalk High and Brian McMahon. And that's just student resource officers are going to be really utilizing this. Chief Walsh and his team has done a great job, and really excited for the police department to be leading in this initiative and being great role models to the youth in the city. Chief Walsh is here, and I'll pass it to him if he would like to add to that.
Chief Walsh?
Thank you, Mayor Rilling, Councilman Seed. Good evening, everyone. Yes, this past winter, we had 2 car chargers, the electric vehicle chargers, installed at headquarters. And we've been waiting for that to move this initiative forward. It's an exciting time. We're going to wrap these vehicles appropriately in the Norwalk Beer colors and the Brian McMahon Senator colors to really highlight the initiative here for green and renewable energies. They're going to be there at the high schools, used by the school resource officers every single day. They're the first American-made fully police package vehicle, so we're excited to try these out to see what they can do here as a fleet vehicle. And the officers are excited to use them. I've already discussed it with Officer Gonias and Officer Alderando. And they're excited, and we're going to highlight them at the schools, and we'll get a lot of exposure there. And not only there, but at the games and everywhere the SROs follow the athletic teams around to different communities where they provide security. So we'll definitely be highlighting these vehicles.
For the comments, Mr. Goldstein.
I just want to commend Chief Walsh and the team at MPD. This is something that not only they have been working on, this is something that we on the council and a lot of our constituents have wanted to see the police department and our municipal fleet writ large move in this direction. So we are deeply appreciative of your efforts here, and I can't wait to see those cars because those are going to be awesome. But we are excited, and it shows, and it shows these shifts in a new direction to make our fleet as energy efficient as possible. And I will be enthusiastically voting in support of this item. Go Bears, go Senators.
Look, Ms. Najilski.
Thank you, Councilmember Goldstein. I also really want to add my thanks to you, Chief Walsh. I know I bugged more times than probably was productive. I also want to add my thanks to Chief Vanessa Valderas of Public Works, who and her team, who spent an enormous amount of time working with you and the rest of the city to figure out how we could do the electrical chargers. I know it took an enormous amount of work in terms of investment in new transformers and other things that really then give us a foundation to expand on this. I appreciate the strategy of getting started, learning lessons, figuring out how to make this work. I appreciate the investment in American Made. And I appreciate the thought that went into pairing this with the SROCs and really trying to engage our youth on this as well. Mr. Mayor, I think this is exactly the kind of thing that gives people joy and enthusiasm for the Greenest City Initiative. And I think we need those kinds of things to help people understand the amount of work and investment that's worth it. So I just applaud everyone for this. It's a very exciting day. And thank you, Mr. Steed, for pulling this off and letting us celebrate it.
Ms. Smith.
Yeah, I'd just like to add my comments. I know we're voting on electric vehicles here, which is great, and I'm thrilled about that. But I want to take a moment to acknowledge Chief Walsh and the police department and our school resource officers. I have personal experience with Officer Gonyas at PONUS. When he worked there, I was teaching there, and then as at Norwalk High School as well. And he is incredible, and I'm sure your other resource officer at McMahon is just as talented at really working with our kids, developing the relationships with them. And I want to take that a step further, because the outreach that you do with your police officers in the community to engage with young people is incredible. And I think that that's what our young people need. And it really does. We notice it, and it makes a difference. So thank you for that commitment.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I would also like to thank the council's support on the other public safety items tonight. The boat and the motorcycles, they were needed. Thank you.
Before we take the vote, sometimes when you do things over a period of time, in the aggregate, you don't think about it. And think about wanting to be the greenest city in the state of Connecticut. Look what this council has done working together with my administration. Ban plastic bags, ban plastic straws, LED lights all throughout our buildings, solar where it's appropriate, where we can do it, charging stations, new charging stations here at City Hall, over at the police department, in the DPW area, gas-powered leaf blowers, a ban, 4 new schools, all with energy efficiencies built into those schools, and 4 electric vehicles that we just purchased, and there will be more, and now 2 electric police vehicles. That's what this council has done, to try to protect our environment locally, and we hope that other cities take a look at what we've done and use us as a model for what can be done. I don't know of any city that I've heard of that I'm working with some of the selectmen and mayors around the state that have done what we've done together. So proud.
No, your trees, Mayor. You didn't even mention all the trees you planted.
I'm sorry?
You didn't mention all the trees you planted. Millions of dollars in trees.
Well, yes.
And I would also like to I also appreciate the North River Valley Trail that I have used to work to North High School. And there's a lot of that getting cars up. So
Thank you for reminding us about the trees too, and the NRVT. Absolutely. So we're just scratching the surface. So much more to do. So let's move forward. All in favor of this item? Opposed? I didn't think so. Abstentions? 14 in favor. Thank you. Ms. Shanahan. Motion to adjourn at 8:34. All in favor? Opposed? I didn't think so. Thank you.